Hello YouTube viewers, you are watching Rob41593 video review of Game of Thrones Season 2, Episode 1. I would like to start off by saying that I'm a huge fan of the books and the first season. I've watched every episode like so many times, I can't count. Basically, Game of Thrones' main attraction is its characters, its story development. Also, scenery is beautiful, the story's written very well and directed great. The song's composer is the German composer Ramin Djawadi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. One of the writers who wrote Game of Thrones is Tim Van Patten, who also worked on the hit series Boardwalk Empire, which is another show on Game of Thrones on HBO, and directed. It has several directors. One of the directors is Brian Kirk, and Alan Taylor, just to name a couple. Alan Taylor also is working currently on Iron Man, Thor 2, I think. Alright, let's just start off by recapping what happened the first season. For those new to the series or haven't watched the first series, I would like to say that this is an analysis and a review, so I will be heavily into spoilers. For those who do not wish to hear spoilers, please look at the show first, then come back here. I will be comparing small situations to the books that don't happen in the books but happen in the show. I won't go into any spoilers of what happens in the future, in case you're worrying about that. Basically, Game of Thrones Season 2 is based off the second book written by George R.R. Martin. It's based on the second book, Clash of Kings. Now, where we left off, Ned Stark's head was beheaded by King Joffrey. People were very surprised by this, especially Cersei, and the Starks as well. It was a very rash thing Joffrey did to behead Ned Stark. People were not expecting that. They thought they would just keep him there as a bargaining chip to make Robb Stark stop rebelling against the Lannisters. And also we left off with Daenerys Targaryen, who was in Vasta-Thraki. She burnt the witch who killed Khal Drogo, her husband. She then went into the fire herself, and we learned that she cannot be killed by fire. She cannot be burned. And also that dragons were born when she placed the eggs into the fire. And she had 3 baby dragons, which is very, very cool. The CGI on that looked beautiful. Now, going into Season 2, it's very complicated now. We have several new characters showing up in the first episode of Season 2. We have several new locations, such as Dragonstone. We have a lot more players coming into the show, like Stannis Baratheon, and they're all just competing for the throne now. And that's the main plot of this series. That's what it's going to be, is people trying to overthrow King Joffrey and claim the throne as theirs, because they found out through Ned Stark's letter that King Joffrey was born of incest. He's not the true king. He was born of Cersei Lannister and Jaime Lannister, as was King Joffrey's younger siblings, which we don't really see in the show. That's one thing we saw in the beginning of this show, but they don't really emphasize on that a lot, that he has other siblings. Okay, so I'll be starting off by not reviewing each character, but reviewing and analyzing locations of which each character is at. That way I can get everybody in very, very fast. Okay, let's just start off by doing King's Landing. For all you who forgot or don't know, that's the capital, basically, of Westeros, where the king is held. The king rules over all of Westeros. The first thing we see in this episode is King Joffrey's is on King Joffrey's birthday, or name day, as they say in the show. King Joffrey is having two guys fight each other for his pleasure, and you can see the Hound just kill a guy and throw him off the edge, and it's very brutal. And that's what I love about the show, is that it's not afraid to show all that stuff. But yeah, it was very satisfying to watch that. But very evil at the same time from Joffrey's point of view. It's just just shows how evil this guy is, and I love to hate him. I don't think that there's one person out there who doesn't hate King Joffrey. He's more Malfoy than Draco Malfoy, is what I'm saying. He's just such a little whiny brat who is just so pure evil in this show, and it's funny because his character, if you think about it, he's like 16 or like 14 or 16 years old, and you just hate him. You want him to die. It's very, very funny and amusing, but after he killed Ned Stark, I hate this guy. I love to hate him. He's just such an asshole. I just want him dead. Now we see him, and then also Sansa, who is Ned Stark's eldest daughter, who is being acts as a captive for King Joffrey, and she's going to be forced to marry King Joffrey. And a lot of people don't like Sansa's character, and I can see why. It's because she's very weak. She has no power whatsoever. But you have to realize that's because she's basically is a prisoner for them, and in order to survive, she has to be that way. She has to be weak. She has to be delicate. She's basically walking on thin ice when she's with King Joffrey, because he could torture her in a heartbeat. He would, if given the right reason. As you saw from last season, he had his men hit her after she insulted him. I loved how she said to King Joffrey that her brother Robb Stark would behead him, and I love that line from her. But King Joffrey had to slap her for that, which I hate him for that. So it shows that she does still have strength to stand up to him, and it proved that way through her trying to spare this one knight's life in the beginning of this episode, when he's about to execute him for drinking, for being drunk on King Joffrey's birthday. And it shows that even though she's still oppressed, she still wants to do the right thing, and I appreciate her for that. Even though she's not my favorite character, I can still understand why she acts the way she does, is what I'm saying. Now, let's talk about one of my favorite characters in this show. I think everyone's favorite characters is Tyrion Lannister. I hate all the Lannisters except Tyrion. Tyrion is the only one that I can say is the best Lannister. He's very smart and cunning, and the funny thing is, he's a midget, or a dwarf. People look down upon him, literally and figuratively, but he doesn't really give a damn what people think about him. He can care less. He insults and says anything he wants to, even to the king, and most of his jokes go over the king's head, and it's very funny. We saw him walking into walk into the castle and talk to King Joffrey. Just a little bit of banter between him and King Joffrey. He says that, where were you on the battlefield? And and Joffrey says, I was ruling. And Tyrion was like, oh yes, you've been doing a fine job. I just thought that was really funny. The banter Tyrion has always is fulfilling, and I think in this series we will find out that we will see his true potential in this show. He's been sent to King's Landing by his father in place of his father to be the Hand of the King. And Cersei Lannister, Tyrion's sister, Tyrion's older sister, I should say, does not like that one bit. But Tyrion doesn't really care at all. He actually turns the tables on her and just exposes how weak she was in trying to stop Joffrey from killing Ned Stark, and how she failed miserably in trying to control Joffrey. Cersei is a very, very evil character, I have to say. She is not as evil as Joffrey, but because she actually still has motives for being evil. In the show, we see that Cersei has lost control over Joffrey when she slaps Joffrey, but Joffrey threatens to kill her for that instead of listening to her advice after she's been insulted by him for the rumors of incest between her and Jaime. And we can see that Joffrey really doesn't care or give a damn about his uncle Jaime at all. It says that it's a tragedy battle. Yeah, his character's just god-awful. I hate him. So basically, in King's Landing, we just have bickering, squabbles, and it's setting up for what's to come. It's setting up for what's to come. Alright, over at Dragonstone. Let's talk about Dragonstone real quick. We see Stannis Baratheon, which is one of the brothers of Robert Baratheon, the middle brother of Robert Baratheon, and he's trying to, and he has, we can see this red witch. Her name is not given in this episode, so I will not give her name away. It's probably going to be revealed next episode, but right now it's just a mystery for you guys. And I would like to keep it that a mystery. But anyways, we see that she's immune to poison when one of the advisors tries to poison her for burning the gods. We see her necklace light up in the episode, and it's really hard to see because the camera zooms out, but we can see that her necklace glows. And I thought that was a very, very cool part that they put in the show. And you get to see like the power she has in just withstanding poison. So you know that she could be the real deal in magic and witchcraft. So we can easily see why Stannis has her in his company, and that doesn't sit really well with Davos, which is he's mentioned briefly in this episode. He'll become a prominent character. Point of view he'll become a prominent character in Dragonstone later on, but for right now he's mentioned very briefly. We can see his reaction to this, and he doesn't really like it, and that might come into play in the other episodes. I think in this episode he is an advisor to Stannis Baratheon, and we learn that Stannis Baratheon trusts Davos through the other advisor who was killed by the poison he gave. We will see more of the character development of Davos and Stannis Baratheon come into play, and see how they're going to try and take the throne from King Joffrey and become the rightful heir. Because Stannis Baratheon is technically the next in line to that. But sadly, he is he doesn't have a lot of support because he is a very harsh and brutal man. We could even see that he does not want to side with any of the other false kings like Renly Baratheon or King Robb. That he just wants the throne for himself, and he will get that by only himself and the support he has from those devoted to him, not other people devoted to other kings. Which can be his downfall, I think. That could be his lead up to his downfall, but we won't know until later on in the episode. But I can only say that it'll be very interesting to see where he goes from. There's a lot of I just want to say there's a lot of subplots in this series, and some of which involve different territories. Most of which is the Wall. That's the biggest subplot right now, is the Wall. As you know from the end of the first season, where the Night's Watch is going into Wildling territory, it'll be very interesting to see what they find while in there. But in this episode, they come to their first resting place, Craster's Keep, I think it's called, beyond the Wall. Craster is a very disgusting old man. He, as Jon Snow finds out very quickly, that Craster marries his daughters, and to make more daughters so he can marry more daughters. He's very disgusting, and he's a sickening man. He has no sense of decency with any of the Night's Watch, but yet he lets them stay there. One of Jon Snow's friends brings up, I forget his name, but he brings up the question as to why Craster is still here, and none of the other villages are still here. Like, why Craster is the only one with all these wives, and the wildlings and the White Walkers haven't attacked him yet. Now, this is a very good question, because it shows that there's something more to Craster and his lust for women, that it's something more deep, and we'll find out probably in other episodes. But yeah, we see Jon Snow again, Commander Mormont, and we also see Samwell Tarly. Samwell is just a funny character. He's I like that guy. He's really good. He's got a good heart, but he's very fat and weak, which he constantly brings up again. But I think Jon and him have a great friendship in this series, and will be more, and we'll see more of that in the future. So right now we don't know where the Watch is going. We hear rumors of Mance Rayder, which is one of the wildlings, who we learn is summoning an army more powerful than any army that any of the other kings have, which is very, very weird, because this is the first time we're hearing of this, and it's through Craster. Now we know about the Night's Watch and the Wall. Let's go back to Winterfell. I really like Winterfell. It's a very cool place, very cool scenery. We see Bronn acting as the Lord of Winterfell in King Robb's stead. We see humorous dialogue between him and this old man, which is he's complaining about his home and how it's in disarray. And we see Bronn, this like 12-year-old kid, he doesn't really give a damn. But Master Luwin, his advisor, shows Bronn there's more to ruling than doing things. You also have to listen to other people, regardless of if you like them or not, which is very, very honorable, and makes Master Luwin look like a very good character and mentor to Bronn. Now, a lot of this episode has to deal with ruling, I think. We see it in King Joffrey, how his ruling has been terrible. We see it in Bronn through Maester Luwin. We also see it in Jon Snow, to go back real quick. Jon Snow learning how to follow from Commander Mormont, when Commander Mormont tells Jon to follow. Okay, let's talk about Dothraki. In Dothraki, which is miles and miles away from Westeros, across the Narrow Sea, we see one of my favorite characters, Daenerys Targaryen. She is great as a character, and the actress who plays her is fresh right out of acting school. This is her first role in a major television series. We see Dany Targaryen. She is leading her people to find shelter, basically, after all their horses have been taken away from them and died when she lost, after Khal Drogo died and his men left him. Now all she has is basically weak old men and women who look to her in order to survive. Now she has been leading them through the power and inspiration that she has through her dragons, which are still babies at this point. In a final attempt, after losing one of her horses, she has 3 of her bodyguards go out and search for more food and territory in which they can settle at. Now, what they'll find, I'm not sure, but we can only say that we can only hope that they'll get to a safe place. Now, that's pretty much it for Dany Targaryen. She didn't really have much scenes in this episode, which was a little disappointing, but that it's understandable for the first episode. And then we cut to our last scene in this show, which Arya Stark. She is throughout the whole episode, people are talking about where's Arya, especially in King's Landing. We see that, and she's a very good. She's actually my favorite character, Arya. But we only see her very briefly. She's on the King's Road, and we'll see more of her to come. I guarantee that. And we also see King Robb. I like Robb. He's a very, very strong character. He's very inspirational. He leads his men. It's great, and he has a great dialogue scene between him and Jaime Lannister. Jaime, I hate him. Right now I just hate him because he pushed Robb Stark's little brother out of the window, which was intended to kill him. He had incest between him and his sister, just very disgusting. But he's in chains now, and there's a great dialogue scene between him and Robb Stark, which was great to hear and see. And we can also saw the CGI version of Robb Stark's direwolf, Grey Wind. And it looked very good, I have to say. They actually took real wolves and also and put CGI over them, which was very, very cool to look at. And you can also see how Robb has more power over Jaime Lannister right now. And Robb Stark is actually winning this war. He said that he has 3 battles. 1 is better than 3 losses, which is a great, great line from him. But that also goes back to what Tyrion Lannister was saying about Robb Stark, was that Robb Stark is winning the war, and they have to step it up, basically. And Cersei is going to bring everybody down, and Joffrey. So Tyrion's got to find a way to do that. So it's going to be very interesting to see two favorite characters go head-to-head, Robb Stark and Tyrion Lannister, and to see them play out. That's basically it for the characters. in places of the episode. Now, I'm going to get to the review section right now. I thought this was a very fast-paced episode. This is a very fast-paced episode. It didn't really give a lot of good character development for the new characters that came about, which was in Dragonstone. They just threw them at us, basically. I didn't like that. They didn't really give a lot of good explanation as to what was Davos's role, or how Stannis Baratheon met the Red Witch. It was great for a first episode. It covered a lot of stuff in the book. It covered a lot of stuff that we've been looking forward to. A lot of it was centered around King's Landing, I have to say, and just which is very important, because I think this series will be centered around a lot in King's Landing. Characters, there's great dialogue scenes in every episode of Game of Thrones. The writing's phenomenal, and my hat tips off to George R.R. Martin for just his writing, and that a lot of dialogue scenes they use in this show are from his book. Overall, I give this an 8 out of 10, just because it was very, very good, well written, a lot of good scenery, well scripted, but it was too fast paced in my part. There wasn't a lot of a time for people to get their bearings straight in this episode with the new characters. Other than that, it was a great episode. And if you read the books, then you would have no problem understanding it. But if you didn't, then you were probably a little bit lost. So it was a great episode. And if you guys want more of these reviews and analysis of the episode of Game of Thrones, just subscribe to my channel, just to let me know that what I'm doing right now is helpful for everyone. Hopefully, if I explained a lot to you, try to make sure that in the comments you don't spoil anything that's in the books. There's people here who really look forward to watching this series, and to spoil it would just be a shame. Alright, I'm Rob41593, signing off.